Good evening, and welcome back to Candlelit Chronicles. Tonight we travel north, far north, to a world where the nights stretch long and deep, where green light ripples across the winter sky, and where, long ago, people gathered close to their fires and told stories of how everything began. What did the old Norse storytellers see when they looked up into that endless northern dark? And how did they imagine a great tree, taller than thought itself, quietly holding 9 whole worlds among its branches? Before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It helps these quiet stories find the people who need them, and I would love to know where you are listening from tonight. Share your location and your local time in the comments below. There is something comforting in imagining this story unfolding softly across different corners of the world, all of us under the same sky. Now, dim the lights, get comfortable, pull the blanket a little higher. Settle in. Let your eyes rest. Tonight, we drift back to the very beginning of the northern world, before the first frost, before the first flame, to hear how the 9 worlds came to be, how the gods found their home above the clouds, and how even the ending of all things in these old stories was really just another kind of beginning. Long before there was earth, or sea, or the sweet grass of summer, there was only a great emptiness. The old storytellers called it Ginnungagap, the yawning gap, a silence so wide and so deep that it had no edges at all. There was no up in that place and no down, no light and no shadow to be cast by it, only stillness, patient and calm, like the moment just before sleep. But the emptiness was not entirely alone. Far to the south of it, if a place with no directions can be said to have a south, there glowed a realm of warmth called Muspelheim, a land of soft golden fire, where embers drifted like slow orange snow. And far to the north lay Niflheim, a realm of mist and ice, of frozen rivers and pale blue fog, quiet as held breath. For ages beyond counting, these 2 realms simply existed, the warm one glowing gently, the cold one resting in silence, with the great gap breathing slowly between them. And then, very slowly, so slowly that no one could ever say when it truly began, the warmth of Muspelheim drifted north. It reached across the emptiness, the way the heat of a fire reaches across a dark room, and it touched the ice of Niflheim. The ice began to soften. Drop by drop, it melted into the gap, and where fire met frost, in that gentle in-between place that was neither too hot nor too cold, something remarkable happened. The melting ice took shape. From the thawing rime rose a being vast beyond imagining, a giant named Ymir, the first living thing in all the worlds. He did not rage or roar in these earliest tellings. He simply was. He stretched out across the emptiness and slept, and even his sleep was creative, for from him in time came the first families of frost giants, born as quietly as breath fogging on cold glass. And Ymir was not alone for long. From the same melting ice emerged a great cow called Audhumla, patient and warm, and her milk fed the sleeping giant. Audhumla, in turn, found her own nourishment in the ice itself. She licked the salty rhinestones hour after hour, day after day. And here the old story becomes very tender, because as the cow licked the ice, slowly, gently, the way water smooths a stone, a shape began to appear beneath her warm tongue. First, hair, then a head, then, by the third day, a whole being stepped free of the ice. His name was Buri, the first of the gods. Imagine that for a moment as you lie there in the dark. The very first god, not arriving in thunder or in flame, but being uncovered slowly, patiently, like something precious that was always there, waiting inside the ice to be found. Buri had a son named Bor, and Bor, in time, had 3 sons of his own. Their names were Vili and Ve, and the eldest, whose name would echo through every story the North ever told, was Odin. The 3 brothers looked out at the great gap, at the drifting mist and the sleeping giants and the endless, shapeless dark, and they felt something that every builder and every dreamer has felt since. They imagined something more. They imagined a world. The old poems tell that the brothers took the vast, sleeping form of Ymir, the first giant, returned at last to the deep sleep from which he had come, and from him, with great care, they shaped everything we know. From his flesh they made the soil, dark and rich and ready for roots. From his bones they raised the mountains, and from his smaller bones, the smooth grey stones you might pick up beside any stream. His blood became the sea, ringing the land in a wide protective circle. And his hair became the forests, whispering in winds that were once his slow, sleeping breath. And then, the most beautiful touch of all. The brothers lifted Ymir's great skull and set it high above the new land, like a vast dome, and that became the sky. They caught drifting sparks from the fires of Muspelheim and placed them carefully upon that dome, and those sparks became the stars. So when the old Norse looked up on a clear winter night, they were looking at the inside of the very first roof, scattered with embers of the very first fire. The same stars, more or less, that you could see tonight if you stepped outside and looked up. The brothers walked the shore of their new world, and there they found 2 fallen trees, an ash and an elm, lying quietly where the sea met the land. And from these trees they made the first 2 people. Odin breathed life into them. His brothers gave them thought and warmth and the colour in their cheeks. The man was called Ask, the woman Embla, and the gods gave them a whole green realm to live in, protected from the wild outer places by a fence made from Ymir's brows. That realm was called Midgard, the middle world, the middle garden, our world. And the new world needed light, so the gods arranged that too, with the same quiet care. They set 2 shining chariots on paths across the sky. In one rode a maiden called Sol, carrying the sun. In the other, her brother Mani, carrying the moon. Day after day, night after night, they ride their long circles above Midgard, never hurrying, never late, the most reliable travellers in all the 9 worlds. And behind them, in the old telling, ride 2 more figures, not the Lady of Night on a dark horse whose mane drips cool dew onto the sleeping fields, and her son, Dag, the Lord of Day, whose horse's bright mane lights the morning. So even the coming of evening in these stories is not an absence, not a mere fading of light, but an arrival. Night, riding gently in on her quiet horse, laying dew on the meadows, a visitor the world welcomes, the way you are welcoming her now. And it is called the middle world for good reason, because in the Norse imagination, it hung at the very center of something far larger, something alive. Rising through all of creation, through every realm and every silence between realms, there grew a tree. Not an ordinary tree, an ash tree so vast that no eye could ever see all of it at once, its crown above the heavens, its roots below the deepest wells of time. The storytellers named it Yggdrasil, the world tree, and they said that everything that exists is held somewhere among its branches, the way a great oak holds 1,000 small nests without ever noticing their weight. 9 worlds rested in that tree. There was Asgard, high and golden, home of the gods, and Midgard, our own green middle world, joined to Asgard by a rainbow bridge called Bifrost, which shimmered like light through falling water. There was Jotunheim, the land of the giants, all crag and echo, and Vanaheim, home of a gentler family of gods, rich in meadows and quiet magic. There was Alfheim, where the light elves lived, a realm the poets barely described, as if it were too luminous to put into words. And below, Svartalfheim, the realm of the dwarves, master craftsmen who worked precious metals by the glow of their forges, deep in the warm dark under the mountains. There was Muspelheim, the old fire realm, still glowing at the root of things, and Niflheim, the old realm of mist, still resting in the cold. And finally, quietest of all, there was Hell, the realm of those who had died in peace. Not a place of punishment in these old stories, but simply a still, grey country where the tired could rest. 9 worlds, 1 tree, and through it all, a slow, green patience holding everything together. The tree had its own gentle company. High in its crown perched an eagle, wise and watchful, and far below, among the roots, lived a serpent, old as the roots themselves. Between them, up and down the whole height of creation, ran a squirrel named Ratatosk, carrying messages, and if we are honest, mostly carrying gossip, the one small, busy thing in an otherwise sleeping tree. 4 deer wandered the branches, nibbling the new leaves, and beneath one great root there was a well of shining water, tended by 3 quiet figures called the Norns. Every morning the Norns drew water from their well and poured it gently over the roots of Yggdrasil, so that the world tree would never wither, so that everything held in its branches would be watered and kept and carried on. Imagine being watered like that, every morning, without fail, by someone whose only task is to make sure you continue. Now let us climb, slowly and without any hurry, up through the branches, across the rainbow bridge, to Asgard, the home of the gods. Asgard was a realm of wide courtyards and golden halls, ringed by a great wall, but the poets always described it as strangely peaceful. Long feasting tables, orchards, the quiet clink of cups, and light that fell like late afternoon even in the evening. And at the heart of it all sat Odin, the All-Father, eldest of the brothers who had shaped the world. Odin is often pictured as a king on a high throne, and he did have one, a seat called Hlidskjalf, from which he could see into every world at once. But the older and truer picture of Odin is a wanderer, an old man in a broad hat and a grey cloak, walking the roads of Midgard with a staff, listening more than he spoke. Because what Odin loved more than gold or victory was wisdom. He had 2 ravens, Hugin and Munin, whose names mean thought and memory. Every morning at first light, they lifted from his shoulders and flew out across all the 9 worlds, and every evening they returned, settling softly beside him, murmuring into his ears everything they had seen. And the old poems say Odin worried each dusk that they might not come back, that thought might wander too far, that memory, most precious of all, might one day fail to return. Even the wisest of the gods, it seems, knew what it was to lie awake with his thoughts. Odin's longing for understanding led him, once, to a deep well beneath one of Yggdrasil's roots, the well of Mimir, whose waters held all the memory of the world. He asked for a single drink, and the keeper of the well named a steep price, one of Odin's own eyes. Odin looked into the water for a long, quiet moment and agreed. He gave up an eye and drank, and from that day he saw less of the surface of things and far more of their depths. The old one-eyed wanderer who traded half his sight for insight and considered it a bargain. And once, in the strangest and stillest of all his stories, Odin went to the world tree itself in search of the deepest knowledge of all. The runes, the old carved letters of the North, were more than writing in these stories. They were the shapes of meaning itself, the quiet patterns underneath things. And they could not simply be taught, they had to be found, the way deep truths always are, through patience and stillness and a long time spent hanging between one state and another. So Odin hung himself upon a branch of Yggdrasil and stayed there, wrapped in wind, for 9 long nights. 9 nights for 9 worlds, asking nothing, receiving nothing, simply waiting. And on the 9th night, the poems say, he looked down into the depths below the tree, and the runes rose up to meet him, like bright stones surfacing through dark water. He reached down, took them up, and knowledge itself came into the world. The North remembered that story every time someone sat long into the night over a difficult question, the understanding that some things cannot be rushed, that wisdom, like sleep, arrives only when you finally stop chasing it. But Asgard was never only Odin. Its halls were full of family. There was Frigg, Odin's wife, calm and far-seeing, keeper of the hall's peace, who knew every fate but spoke of none of them. There was Baldur, their son, the gentlest of the gods, so bright and kind that light seemed to rest on him, and everything in the world, stone and stream and bird, loved him. And there was Thor, the thunder god, red-bearded, vast-shouldered, with his hammer Mjolnir at his belt, rolling across the sky in a chariot drawn by 2 goats. When storms grumbled over the mountains of Midgard, farmers would smile and say Thor was simply out for a drive. He was the protector, the strong friend of ordinary people, the one the farmers and sailors called on, not for wisdom or poetry, but for the simple assurance that someone large and good-hearted was standing between them and the dark. For all his strength, the stories about Thor are mostly warm ones, even funny ones. He once had to dress as a bride, veil and all, to win his stolen hammer back from a giant. And the poems clearly delight in describing how much this enormous bearded god ate at his own false wedding feast. The mightiest of the gods, and the easiest to smile about. That was Thor. There was Freyja of the Vanir family, goddess of love and beauty, who rode in a chariot drawn by 2 grey cats and wore a necklace of impossible brightness called Brisingamen. Where she walked, the poets said, spring followed a little more willingly, and she wept tears of gold, which is why, they said, gold gleams the way it does, every nugget a memory of her. And within Asgard's wall stood a hall that even people who know nothing else of the North have heard of. Valhalla, the Hall of Odin. It is often imagined as a loud place, but listen to how the old poets actually described it. A hall roofed with golden shields, glowing softly like late sunlight, rafters of spear shafts, and room at the long tables for every brave soul the Valkyries carried gently home. The Valkyries themselves, riders in the high air, glimpsed as flickers of light over the northern snow. Some said the aurora itself was the gleam of their passing. In Valhalla, the day's contests ended every evening. Every wound was made whole by dusk, and then there was only the long feast, the fire, the mead, and the telling of stories. The same evening, perfected, returning again and again. For the Old North, that was the sweetest heaven imaginable. Not endless novelty, but one good evening among friends that never has to end. Her brother Freyja brought the gentle rain and the good harvest. Heimdall, the bright watchman, stood at the rainbow bridge, able to hear grass growing in the meadows and wool growing on sheep. And Idun, quietest of them all, kept an orchard of golden apples that held the god's youth. As long as her apples were shared around the table, the gods stayed strong and unaging, every bite a little more time. And then there was Loki. Loki was not quite a god and not quite a giant, a shape-changer, quick as flame, who could be a falcon 1 hour and a salmon the next. He sat at the god's table and travelled at Thor's side, and he was, depending on the day, the cleverest friend in Asgard, or its most exhausting troublemaker. Most of Loki's mischief in the older tales ends gently, and often the gods came out of it richer than before. It was Loki's fault that the goddess Sif once lost her golden hair, and Loki's cleverness that replaced it, persuading the dwarves in their deep, warm forges to spin new hair from real gold. And while he was at it, to craft the greatest treasures the gods would ever own. A ship that could fold up like cloth, a spear for Odin that never missed, and for Thor, the hammer Mjolnir itself. So the gods' greatest gifts came, in a roundabout way, from their tricksters' mistakes, which is, perhaps, a very comforting thought to fall asleep on. Even the mischief in the world, these stories say, can end up woven into something good. And it is worth saying, softly, that not even the giants were always enemies in these stories. The gods and the giants married one another, visited one another, traded riddles across fire-lit tables. Skadi, a giantess of the snowy mountains, came to live among the gods, and the sea itself was kept by a giant named Aegir, who was less a rival to Asgard than its favourite host. Aegir's hall lay under the waves, lit not by fire, which no sea hall could keep, but by heaps of glowing gold, shining up through the green water like sunlight remembered. And once in every year, the poems say, the gods would travel down together to that golden hall. Odin and Thor, Freyja and Freyja, even Loki. And Aegir would brew ale for them in a cauldron as deep as a valley, and they would feast beneath the quiet weight of the whole ocean. Think of that image for a moment. The mightiest beings in all the worlds, sitting down to dinner at the bottom of the sea, the storms silent far above them, the long light of gold on their faces, giants and gods passing the cup down one shared table. Even in a mythology famous for its battles, the picture the poets returned to again and again was everyone at peace, eating together. The halls of Asgard settled into their long, golden afternoon. Thor rode the storms, Freyja walked the meadows, Odin wandered and listened. Idun's apples went around the table, and below, in Midgard, people planted their fields, sailed their fjords, and told these very stories through the long northern winters. Their long houses glowing amber against the blue dark, smoke rising slowly toward the stars, toward the branches of the great tree they could not see, but never doubted. Now, every telling of the northern myths must in the end walk a certain road, the road to Ragnarok, the fate of the gods. But let us walk it slowly and gently, because in the old poems it is not really a story about ending, it is a story about renewal. And the Norse always told it in the future tense, not as news, but as a forecast, the way you might speak of a storm that will someday come and someday pass. One day, the poems say, far off, there will come a winter that forgets to end. 3 winters back to back with no summer between them, the world resting under one long, deep snow. The stars will flicker like tired candles, the old boundaries will soften, the great wolf, long chained, will slip loose and swallow the sun, and the serpent that circles the sea will stir the waters as it wakes. Heimdall at his bridge will lift his horn and blow one long, clear note, a sound like a deep bell across still water, heard in every one of the 9 worlds at once. And the gods will rise from their tables, not in panic, the poems are clear about this, but calmly, like people who have known about a long journey for a very long time and have already packed. Odin will ride out to meet the wolf. Thor will face his old adversary, the world serpent, and the fire of Muspelheim will sweep across the land, folding everything back into the warmth from which it first came. The sea will rise softly and completely, and the world will slip beneath the waters, the way a sleeper slips beneath a blanket. And then, stillness. The same stillness as before the beginning. The great gap, breathing slowly once more. But here is the part of the story that the North held closest, the part whispered at the end of the long poem, like a secret saved for last. The world comes back. Green and washed and new, the land rises from the sea a second time. Waterfalls tumbling down clean mountainsides, eagles turning slowly overhead. Baldur the Gentle returns from the quiet country of Hel, walking up into the sunlight, and a handful of the younger gods gather in the new grass where Asgard once stood. There, the poems say, they will find golden game pieces lying in the meadow, the very chess pieces their elders once played with, little gleaming memories of the world before, waiting patiently in the grass. And in a sheltered wood, two people will have slept safely through it all, a woman and a man, Lif and Lifthrasir, whose names mean life and life's yearning. They will step out into the washed morning light and begin again, and from them will come all the people of the new world. A new sun will rise too, the daughter of the old sun, the poems say, brighter and kinder than her mother, rolling gently up the sky over a world with no more winters that forget to end. So the great tree bends but does not break. The story dims but does not stop. That was the deepest belief of the North, that every ending is a fold in the cloth, not a cut, and that beneath the longest winter, spring is not gone, only sleeping. And so we come to the end of tonight's journey, back down through the branches of Yggdrasil, past the eagle drowsing in the crown, past the squirrel finally quiet, down to where the Norns pour their bright water over the roots as they do every morning, and every morning still to come. Somewhere far above Midgard, thought and memory are flying home through the dusk, and an old wanderer in a grey cloak is waiting for them, patient as winter, knowing they will return as they always have. The longhouse fire has burned down to soft amber. The northern lights are moving slowly over the snow, green and silent, and the same old stars, the first sparks set in the first roof, are keeping their gentle watch over your window, just as they kept it over the ash tree and the elm tree at the very beginning of the world. Thank you for listening and for drifting through the 9 worlds with me tonight. If these quiet stories help you rest, consider subscribing and perhaps tell me in the comments which world you would visit first. But that is a thought for tomorrow. For now, let the tree hold you as it holds everything. Good night and sweet dreams.